Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hi, is this Josh?
Yes, it is.
This is Neil Merryweather.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. I hope I called at the right time.
Oh, yes, this is perfect.
Okay.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so very much for taking time to do this interview.
Oh, no problem.
Well, of course, we're here to talk about the brand new album from Merryweather Stark Carved in Rock, which just came out back in March. I've gotten the chance to be able to check out the album since then, and, you know, I really love the style that you guys are going for on this album. I love the collection of the hard rock and blues and all of these great moments that are going on throughout the album. It just gives it its nice own little niche feel to it, and it's so great to be able to hear that in 2018.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun project to do. Yanni's definitely got his chops together for that kind of music. I was fortunate to meet him and, do this album with him.
And with that, I mean, with the album almost being out 5 months now, how do you feel about the album now, looking back at it?
It was different for me to do an album the way we did it. You know, he sought me out to cover two of my songs on his Mountain of Power #3 album, and I sang a couple of Walter Rossi songs on that album that he covered, and when it got reviews, I got good reviews myself. So that kind of perked my interest into following through on maybe some more stuff with Yanni, and he called me one day and he sent me a track, and I sliced it up in my studio here in Las Vegas, and then I wrote the melody and lyrics for it and sent it back to him, and he was delighted, and it just flowed like that. Every time he sent me something, it just like popped out. And after, I guess, about 8-9 months, we had an album, and like I said, I never did anything like that where we did it hands across the pond kind of thing.
So what would you say you learned most from that experience, with it being the first time that you wrote an album that way?
What I learned?
Yes.
If I had my choice, even though it went smoothly, and I guess it was just because we clicked together and it worked. What he sent was stuff that I liked and I could write to, and it flowed. But if I had my way, I would always have a unit in a room, and I would like to do it the way I did my favorite albums from the past. My Space Rangers and Kryptonite album was just the band set up in a room, and I just went for stuff there. I just wrote stuff on the spot, and that's the way I like to work, because I like to capture the excitement of everybody falling into the groove of a song together, and probably just taking the first take. Sometimes I found myself working with a band and we just nail it really good, and then somebody would make a mistake, and I just keep counting, and we pick it up, and then I put the two pieces together. There's nothing like, a live band working together and that instant creative, excitement that occurs. That's my favorite thing. This was great because it was a new experience. The fact that you could do things like this, because of technology these days, that you could actually play together via parts. We each did get our part, and then Yanni assembled it and had Peter Svensson on drums, and then we had a great guy master the album, mix the album and master it in Martin S. Anderson. And I'm happy with it. I mean, it's for what it is. Like you said, it's definitely got that hard rock 70s sound, but it has a little bit of new kind of stuff happening, for me anyway.
Oh yeah, and that's what I really enjoy about the album. Like, if at least to my ears, when I listen to the album, it doesn't sound like you're a water apart on this album. I mean, it does feel like, in my ears, it feels like you were sitting right next to each other writing these songs, and that really shows about the kind of musical chemistry that's going on with this album, and the way that you can write songs together. I mean, it feels so very natural on this album.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. It was like I said, it was a new experience for me, but it did really gel and come together quickly. When you think about how we did it, it was definitely, an exciting thing to actually take part in. And, I'm looking forward possibly to doing another album with Yanni, but I'm hoping that we don't have to do it this way, but I wouldn't mind if we had to. But like I said, I'd like to have him over here and have Peter over here in Vegas, or I go over there and we got the stuff in a studio. That would be to me the real exciting way to do it. But I'm proud of the album. I'm proud of the way it came out.
Oh yeah, and I would really love to see that as well for the next time that you two get together. You know, it's just like if you do get to sit down in a room and are able to write these songs together and jam it out and see what works, what doesn't work, any mistakes that can lead into something that's even better than the original idea. I mean, when you get to actually sit down and jam together like that, I mean, that's where some of the best inspiration can come from.
Yeah, that's the way I always did it. My album budgets were really small compared to other people. I would go into a studio and maybe take 2 nights of jamming out songs to create an album, and then do my vocals. But a lot of people, they spend a lot of time and a lot of money in studios. With me, like I said, it's the inspirational, first captured moments of a band finally getting, learning the thing together and putting it down the first time. I remember in the past I worked with some producers, and we could spend days on something, and it always wound up where we went back to the first take because it always had the exciting moments. I mean, you could beat something to death, and there is like a formula for a perfect thing where the parts all come together eventually where it's perfect, but it's not the perfection in rock and roll that I think makes rock and roll exciting. I think it's just the energy that's created when you first do something. Like a lot of the early stuff that was done in the old days was done on like a 2-track or 1-track tape machines before 8-track and then 16 and then beyond that. Even the Beatles, their first stuff was like done on a 4-track and it was all inspirational, just first take kind of stuff. And that's the kind of thing I like.
Oh yeah, and I always appreciate that as well too. And there is that appreciation for being able to have that skill level as well too, because especially in the more analog days, analog tape doesn't really come cheap. So it's like you really have to be able to get your stuff together really quickly in the studio to make sure that you're not wasting money.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of people did. And I remember hearing albums taking months to do. Oh, that album took 6 months. I could never wrap my head around that kind of thing. I have attention deficit disorder. I mean, to a degree. I could not spend a god-awful amount of time on one song. I mean, it has to pop out. And that's what happened with this album. When Yanni sent me tracks, and I got it in the position I wanted the track to be, I heard the song just materializing in my head, and it just, the melodies and the lyrics came so quickly. Like, I'm working on Space Rangers 3 right now. I did 2 Space Rangers album way back in the 70s, and they have a cult following. And I started Space Rangers 3 probably late last year, and I'm still working on it. And, it's a work in progress, and it's a work where I want to spend a little bit more time in developing the songs. But when I look back and I think about how fast the Merryweather Stark Carved in Rock album popped out, I'm kind of thinking maybe that was the formula. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
like lately some writer's block has crept in.
Yeah, and sometimes it varies on the project and who you're working with and the situations and all that stuff. I mean, sometimes you're able to do like a first-hand experience like this where you're transferring files back and forth to each other working on songs like Carved in Rock, and sometimes it comes down to more of the details like what's going on with this new album that you're working on right now. I mean, sometimes it just takes months, possibly even a year or so, just be able to come up with the right ideas to make sure that it comes into a full-fledged good album.
Yeah, it has to follow the formula that Space Rangers and Kryptonite did have. I mean, the little cult following worldwide I have for those albums, I got to be able to do something that pleases the people. I can't say this is Space Rangers 3. I have the cartoon cover, I have everything in order the way it should be, and the music not stand up. So that's where the challenge is in this album. The Yanni Stark, collaboration was kind of groovy because some of the songs just popped out, like the protest song. What's it going to be? I don't know if you paid attention to the lyrics or not, but it kind of like talks about the state of affairs that the world is in and who we have, heading up the United States of America right now. It's like a little protest song.
Oh yeah, and I noticed that as well. I mean, it took me a couple listens to fully grasp it, as I didn't have the lyrics with me. I was just going completely off by ear, but I really did appreciate that as well. And it's just like I really appreciate the lyrical content that went into this album.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you very much.
And yeah, and that's what amazes me even more, just being able to get that inspiration from not having someone with you that you're working with on this album, just talking through them through a computer or whatever the case is, and just being able to send tracks and files to each other back and forth, and just getting that inspiration and coming up with the ideas of riffs and, you know, the vocal melodies and the lyrics itself, you know, just like getting that inspiration from someone across the world.
Yeah, it was kind of a joyful experience, because when Yanni sent the tracks, he had worked out chord changes, and in some cases he threw a lead in there, and he put his own bass in, and he used an electric drum thing, and created the tracks. And if I wasn't excited, then I didn't work on that one. The next one, if I was excited, you know, I would work on it. And usually I would, like I said, I would edit it to make it into a song, into a formula that I could write to. But every time he did send something, it was exciting. It was, you know, real good riffs and real solid tracks to work with. So it came together, like I said, kind of magically, pretty quick. And we're lucky that we got picked up by GMR Rex in Sweden, because their distribution is fairly global. And I think the reaction to the album has been very, very good.
Oh, and that makes me so happy to hear that too. And, you know, it's like I really love what GMR, especially in the last few years, has been able to do for their artists, and really being able to spread the word of all the great music that they show off there. And it was amazing to see all the promotion that I've seen for Carved in Rock, and I'm glad to see that it did get the reception that it deserved as well, because, you know, it's just like this entire album is just filled with so many great hooky riffs and vocal melodies and a great message overall. I think it's just got something for a little bit of everybody who wants something in that especially in that 70s and hard rock and bluesy rock kind of feel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it did. Well, like I said, I couldn't be happier that it turned out the way it did. You know? And like Martin Jessup Anderson in Copenhagen, his studio, he did a great job mastering the album and you know, pretty much formulating it into a powerful sound. You know.
Oh, very much so. And speaking of that as well, I mean, you mentioned before that you're now currently residing in Las Vegas now. What is it like for you musically to be in such a city like that?
Well, it's like, wow, you know. Friends come to town, I get to see them, you know, and go backstage and hang out, and if they're not people that I do know, I have access to various places to go when acts hit town for free. You know, it's just a groovy thing. I mean, you know, here I am using that word groovy and some other, what else did I use earlier? I'm dating myself. Anyway, I'm an old hippie. But Vegas is just, it never sleeps. I mean, there's always something going on. There's jams every night at various clubs with local musicians. There's just a gigantic flow of musicians coming through. There's a lot of musicians that also made this their hometown. I was hanging out with Ansley Dunbar, you know, for dinner one night, and I would probably never have met him if he didn't live here, and a mutual friend, didn't invite me along. But I get to meet a lot of people that I never met before, but because they're here. I mean, it's amazing, you know. And like I said, it's a town full of shows. It's just full of shows. Like Aerosmith is coming here for a residency. Various acts are coming here, and they spend not just do one concert, but they stay for a week or two. So there's always a chance to see them. You don't have to worry about, it's one night, it's sold out. More and more acts are doing that.
Yeah,
I heard a rumor that Billy Gibbons is actually going to move here, but I don't know.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. I would love to see what you two could do together in a writing session.
Hey, you never know. You know, I've got the beard anyway. I started growing the chin thing. Kind of helps to hide the little bit of a chicken neck I'm developing. You know?
Oh, yeah, but, you know...
It's a rocker's secret.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, getting back into the whole Vegas thing, I mean, that is so cool. I mean, you know, just like being in a city like that, I mean, like every kind of entertainment that you're looking for, especially when it comes into music, you know, it's just like there's so many different styles that are going on. And like you said, like the residencies that are going on, like Aerosmith just announcing their residency for next year. And, you know, all the bands that do come to town, even if it is just one night or they're able to stay longer than that, you know, it's just like it's so cool to be able to like reconnect with friends, making new friends like that, making new acquaintances and stuff like that, all just from being in a city like that.
Yeah, it's the city that never sleeps. It's definitely the entertainment capital of the world. And you know, I lived in LA, I lived in London, I lived in Amsterdam, grew up in Toronto, all great cities, and they had their moments. But this city right now just has moment after moment. It just doesn't stop. You know? And it's comfortable. You can get places anywhere in the town in 10 or 15 minutes, contrary to LA, where it could take you 3 hours and you're only going like 20 miles. So I'm happy to be out of there. The only thing I miss is the ocean, and other than that, this town holds all the open gates to so much music. I mean, it's just great.
And with that, I mean, like, how often do you normally go out and like check out like new music, being like jam sessions or shows that are coming to town or anything like that?
Well, there's a long standing blues club here called the Sand Dollar, and every once in a while I'll go there to see friends that are in blues bands. There's a guy here called Chris Tofield, guitar player. I think the best blues rock guitar player I've ever seen in my life. So every once in a while I'll go to that club and check him out. Other friends have different bands. Like I said, there's a lot of clubs outside of the Strip, not downtown or the Strip, just in the west side here that have jam nights and feature local acts that you know, are really good. You know, to be able to go to a showroom at a hotel, they're all so acoustically fantastic. They're all, you know, they were all built for the sound, and you get acts coming into various hotels here into the showroom, and you cannot deny that it's the best place to hear them. I mean, I've heard acts in stadiums and other places in my life, but Vegas just has all these little showrooms that just sound great. You know, I mean, what else can I say? It's a town of constant moving music.
Oh, and that's just got to be so incredible, and I imagine that's got to really help for the inspiration as well. I mean, especially when you are a musician and you are always trying to come up with new ideas and get that creativity and inspiration, because, you know, just like on every street in every area of Las Vegas, you can discover something new, check out old friends, new friends, and, you know, just get that sense of people really enjoying music.
Yeah, it's definitely here. It's a great place to live. I don't know what else to say other than I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive, for that matter. And the town helps keep you alive. You know, there's always something to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Something to see.
Absolutely. So, you mentioned it before that you're currently working on the next Space Rangers album, but along with that, is there anything else that you're currently working on as far as like live shows or any new albums or anything like that as well?
Well, I put the word out to Yanni to possibly think about Merryweather and start doing some live dates next year, and you know, he's connected to a lot of festivals and places in Europe. So that's what I would like to do. I haven't been on the road in decades. The last live thing I did probably was with Becky Barksdale. I did a club in Hollywood with her. She was Michael Jackson's guitar player. She's a lead blues artist. Before that, I did the Lita Ford thing, and I think I did 2 live shows with her. And since then, I've been mainly in the studio. I have a studio band called 100 Watt Head with Jamie Herndon, who was the keyboardist and second guitar on the Space Rangers Kryptonite album. And Dusty Watson, who was with me with Lita Ford, is the drummer, not only for the 100 Watt Head that we've been doing for a couple of decades, just as a studio band, but he's now the drummer on the new Space Rangers album also. So, I mean, I am always busy. I did 2 kids' TV shows after the Lita Ford thing, and I just try to stay busy. And I have my home studio here. My late wife, when we first moved here, she insisted we add a wing to the house, so I put my studio in it, and we did that. And I just am here in the studio every day. Whether I have writer's block or not, my hands still work. So if I'm not able to write lyrics and sing something, I'll just take a drum track that Dusty left behind when he was here that I didn't write to, and I can write to it. The new guitar player for this Space Rangers album is Pete Levine, and Pete was in a group called Salty Dog back in the late 80s, early 90s on Geffen, and he's a super guitar player. And I needed to find a guitar player like that to carry on the tradition of the Space Rangers sound, because for both albums there was a brilliant guitar player involved. So that's what's making this possible. So between Pete, me, and Dusty, we've got 10 tracks that I'm currently writing to, and I'm looking for a keyboard guy that can do these string things that Space Rangers sound, you know, is known for, the strings and the synthesizers that accompany the power trio kind of thing. Once that's done, I'm going to be happy, hopefully, with it, and I'll get that out there somehow. It's a difficult business. The old music business was treacherous, but there were a lot of labels. There were a lot of opportunities. Now there's only 4 big labels left, and you have to really go out there and try to negotiate with the smaller labels. And with the death of things that are tangible, things that you can actually unwrap and smell, like albums and CDs even, and cassettes, all of that fell by the wayside. They say that the vinyl's back to 28% of sales, but mostly it's streaming, and you don't make anything from that. Spotify's got cornered the market, and they suck all the artists dry. They pay nothing. Even though ASCAP and BMI have sued them and won, they are, $300 million company, and they can just keep putting it off with appeals. So we're never going to see the money we used to be able to make as writers or performers as far as airplay goes.
Yeah, and that is one of the biggest tragedies that really does come into the music business, not getting the fair share of what you deserve to make. I mean, whether it's extravagant or just feeling like you're getting paid for every stream or every vinyl player or every CD player, whatever the case is, just being able to get that fair share that's going in there. Amongst everything else that's going on there, too, I mean, like the experience of being able to unwrap a vinyl album and check out that gigantic artwork and all the liner notes that goes into it. Yeah, it's just like there's so many things that fall to the wayside when it comes to that.
Yeah. Merryweather Stark did come out on vinyl, a very limited run, I think 300 copies, and it was a double album with great fidelity, and Yanni did a fantastic job on the artwork. I have a copy of that. I'm kind of proud of it. I was able to unzip his cellophane on that and open it up and remember the old days. But it also comes down to every album I ever did, and this one I'm working on now is number 20. And every album I ever did is bootlegged, and it's out on some Russian label or some German label or some Eastern European label. They're all there on if you go to Discogs or anywhere else. All my stuff is there, but I don't get a dime. I don't get a penny. I mean, it's just all bootleg. What I do look at it like is, hey, it keeps you alive. I mean, your music is out there. People are still pumping it out there, even if it's illegally done and you don't make money off it. At least I know that my music is out there, and maybe new people are listening to it, and that's important.
Oh yeah, and even with the financial aspects of the music business being drier than it's ever been, it also in an odd way really helps with the creativity as well, because now you don't have to worry so much about if something's going to be commercially successful or not, because we're in that day and age where things can be bootlegged or just not selling or not getting the money from streaming or whatever. But for the creative standpoint, you can make the music that you want to make and have that freedom.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, as long as you know what you're doing and how to do it. Like the computer came along, and I was dragged kicking and screaming to that to leave analog tape behind. And but I understand it more now, and I use Pro Tools, and I have other formats in my computer. But I'm okay on Pro Tools enough to make the records and to carve them out of the basics that I need. I'm really excited because I just got a new plug-in, and it's Abbey Road plates. It's all of the echo plates from Abbey Road Studios. Being a big George Martin fan, these plates sound great. So that was a new addition to the arsenal here in my little home studio.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Anyway, that's the name of the game, yeah.
Yeah, and that is such a great thing about being able to be in that position where you do have a great home studio and you are able to have that inspiration, whether you get writer's block or not, just being in that position where if something does strike, you're able to just move into a different part of the house and be able to record these ideas, be it for demo purposes, just writing a riff down, or getting a full-fledged album out there. I mean, that's incredible that you were able to build up the studio the way that it has and constantly updating and coming up with new ideas.
You're exactly right on everything you said. I mean, it's, having it in your home. Like, I'll sit there in the family room with an acoustic guitar, and I'll have my phone next to me, and then I'll come up with a riff or a song idea and a melody, and I'll just record it on my phone. Then I'll run into the studio, and I'm able to then, put it onto a session and hopefully come back to it and finish it someday. I've got probably about 50 things I did that way, but it is magical to be able to go into different rooms of your house and create, and then have the studio to actually, do the final thing in. We have the amp head in my studio room because I have a small room, and we have the 412 cabinet out in the family room covered under blankets. So when Pete comes in to do a lead, that's where we mic it out there. When we record live sessions, when Dusty comes to town and the three of us actually record basic track, well, I'll just put earphones on, and I have a room in my room for the kit to be right in the control room. So that's how we do it. And the old days, you couldn't really do that. Now you can.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's, yeah.
Oh, that is just so cool, and I'm glad to see that you are in that position as well to make that happen as well. That's the great thing that does come with technology. Of course, there's always going to be some setbacks, but the fact that you're able to be in that position right now, rather than, spending money to always having to rent out a studio, that you are able to just build it up yourself, have your friends come over and help fill out the rest of the album or riffs or whatever the case is, and just coming up with these ideas, whether you're just sitting on the couch at home. I mean, that's so cool.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, awesome.
Anyway, what else can we say about it? Hey, kids out there, go buy the Carved in Rock. Merryweather Stark.
Yeah. I think that's actually a great note to end on. Bringing things back into Carved in Rock, which is a fantastic album. I love this collaboration that's going on there, and of course, it's available now through GMR Music. I really appreciate you taking the time to be able to talk to me about everything that's going on in your world right now, be it Merryweather Stark, be it Space Rangers, being just talking about living in Vegas or your home studio. Just like getting all these really cool insights into your world right now, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you wanting to talk to me and liking the album. It's guys like you in your side of the business that help guys like me get our music out there. I really appreciate it.